Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Lifestyle Medicine Center class. Today we're going to be talking about proper form, the foundation of exercise safety. My name is Jessica Smith. I'm one of the stress management specialists at LMC. I'm also a yoga and Pilates and bar instructor, teaching a couple other things as well. But form is a big part of what I focus on in my own classes and my own work with group classes and private clients. So it's something that I really like to focus on and talk about. So we'll just dive right in. We're doing mostly, well, not mostly, all of a PowerPoint presentation today. So I'm sharing my screen with you here. All right. So we'll just start out with why is it important? So when movements become unaligned, muscles are put at awkward angles, which decreases the functionality, which means you're just not utilizing your body in the way that it's meant to. Also, we're creating neurological patterns, meaning that you can think of it as a habit. You know, when you do something over and over again, then your body gets used to doing something in a certain way. So during exercise, when we're doing these repetitive movements, when we do sets of exercises, keeping ourselves in the proper form is really going to benefit us so that we can have structure, stability, and balance as we get stronger through those exercises. And you can see there on the next point, if you perform an exercise incorrectly, especially over a long amount of time, then you're really setting yourself up for dysfunction and injury for the future. So it's really important to pay attention to what you're doing and really going for the best form that you can to create those important patterns and habits over time. And you can see right there, I guess that's just what I touched on, establishing good practices moving forward. All right, so when we don't have proper form, we are not working the intended muscle groups. So it's kind of like, why are you doing what you're doing? You're kind of wasting your time. To that end, we also can be straining other areas of the body, building more tension than we'd like. So it's really important to have this proper form so that you can develop the muscles and tone the muscles that you like and also grow in your exercise routine. So if lifting weights or using resistance, I guess in any sense, whether that's free weights or maybe you're using machinery, maybe you're using a resistance band or springs, whatever it may be. When you're lifting too much weight with improper form, then you're going to cause strain or tear on tendons, muscles, joints, which is never a good thing. So it's always better to start with the lighter weight and get your form correct than to throw around a bunch of weight and have misalignment. And I know sometimes that's not what we want to hear, especially our ego wants to hear that we need to do more, but we're really setting ourselves up for failure and injury if we're lifting heavier weight with not the best form. Another important part of exercise and really just us functioning as humans is having proper breathing. So when we have proper form, we're more able to breathe in a better capacity. So I'm giving more space to my lungs and my spine and my diaphragm, and I'm able to fuel my body through the breath. It's also helpful in a deeper sense when you have proper breathing to reduce your chance of heart issues or aneurysms, unnecessary tension. Of course, you could think if you're holding your breath or just breathing up in the top of your chest, we can feel tense and tight. Also, an increase to blood pressure can happen when we're not breathing properly. So it really just makes it easier to breathe if you have proper form. This is really the basic part of this. And then, to that end, if you're having proper form, then it's easier to learn how to breathe properly as you exercise. So you also, to that end, it's helpful in engaging your core and stabilizing your spine, which are two really important parts, and we'll touch on that again here in a moment. in your proper form and really having some effectiveness in your exercise. All right, some benefits of proper form. This is a short list. There's many, many benefits in my opinion, but I just pulled out some really important ones. Reduce the risk of injury. So if you get injured, then you can't, exercise in the way that you like. You can't be mobile. You can't, move throughout your day to see people, to have new experiences, to just get done what you need to get done. So we have proper form. We have less of a risk of injury. We're able to target the muscles and utilize and fire the muscles that we're looking to fire. We can apply a maximal tension for best results. And what that means, not tense in a tense sense, but tension in a beneficial way of muscles and resistance. Optimize the time spent during your exercising so that you're not wasting your time. You're really getting the best benefit and growth and strength out of the time that you're taking to exercise. More effective movement, increased breathing capacity, what we just talked about, consistency, enhanced proprioception, so meaning awareness of your body, knowing where you are in space instead of just going through the motions and hoping that your body does what it's supposed to do. Really being able to tune in with what's happening on those kind of finer frequencies within your body. And then stronger mind-body connection, which is really important as you move your body in space. All right, how can we find proper form? A couple of things to focus on. First off, spinal integrity, elongation, and stabilization. The spine is a really important part of your body. It keeps you upright, it keeps you moving, it supports, the spinal column, nerves, all of that. It's really just the lifeline of your body. So this can include cervical alignment, thoracic extension, core engagement for lower back stabilization, pelvic neutrality, as well as support from the hips, hamstrings, and glutes. And we'll dive into that a little bit more if all of that seems like Greek to you. In addition, we should aim to perform exercises that develop our core and for the most part, keep a neutral spine. There may be some movements that you need to move your spine for extension or flexion or even some rotation, but really thinking about that spinal integrity, that the spine's just, again, you're not just hoping that your body's going to, do what it's supposed to, being aware of it and keeping the spine really safe. All right, so here's diving in a little bit more into some of those points. So cervical alignment, this is kind of just starting from the top down. The chin is slightly tucked with no excessive flexion or extension in the neck. The upper palate and ears are back. So really what that means is that you've got your ears stacked back over your shoulders, that I'm not doing it with my head pointing forward, or I'm not looking down at the ground as I'm doing things. I mean, you could even notice as I do this, you can hear the change in my voice, and that means that changes how I'm breathing. Also just protecting your neck, holding up the weight of your head. Your head's kind of heavy. You got your brain in there. So, starting from the top and also just feeling upright, right? Your breath comes in and out from here. So we want to make sure everything's aligned. And then also, I think just from work and these days and these times when maybe we're sitting at a desk more often than we might be, that there can be tension in the neck. So when we have that proper alignment through the cervical spine, it helps us at least to release some of that tension, that pull, that tugging. All right, then the next point, keeping the upper and mid back lifted. Again, another part of your breath as we kind of move down, chest lifted, engaging your back a bit to support you, keeping the shoulders in their socket, and then in another breath sense and just alignment sense, maintaining space for your abdomen, right? Space for your diaphragm and your belly. So now coming from the top, I've got my ears back, then I kind of want my shoulders to stack over my hips. And again, this is just a classic alignment. You might, move, you could think in a crunch sense, maybe you're moving your spine. But I want, instead of, feeling this posture again, maybe as we're at a computer, we're folded over, or maybe you're on your phone a little bit more than you should be. Just drawing back, opening up, broadening up through here. And to do that, I have to engage the large back muscles just a little bit. Not that I need to squeeze and puff my chest out and be tense in that sense, but can I counteract this forward motion and bring myself more into alignment here? Shoulders in their sockets, so I'm not, kind of popping my arm out as maybe I'm doing some actions. I'm keeping the shoulder socket and really the whole shoulder girdle safe and stable. Lower back stabilization with core support. So engaging your core, you've got a lot of layers of muscles. It's not just at the front, you got your TVA that wraps around, you got obliques, things like that, to stabilize your lower back. Which is really important. I think a lot of people at some point in their life, if not, often throughout the day, have some lower back tightness or pain or just discomfort. So your core is a big part of that. So just keeping everything, I always tell my clients to just feel everything kind of pull in and up. Not that I need to suck it in, not that I need to, again, tense it and just hold tight the whole time through my core, but I can just feel like as if I'm containing my abdomen, just kind of pulling in and up, like a corset that's maybe not too tight. It's just holding you together. And your transverse abdominis is kind of an internal corset to keep you in, again, to help your lower back be stabilized and supported there. And then pelvic neutrality, again, this is just kind of classic, not to say that your pelvis can never move or your spine can never move, but just kind of stacking things up. So your pelvis is set like a bowl, or it's built like a bowl. And so we're trying to keep it neutral, that I'm not letting the water spill forward or let the water spill back. So my core is part of that. My glutes are part of that, your buns there, and your hips. So some strength and engagement there to keep your pelvis neutral as you do certain things. Again, you might be moving the pelvis around, which isn't a bad thing at all. But you can think maybe just in a more classic, like standing, like when you're standing or seated, do you kind of slump? Even just as I did that in my chair, my pelvis went underneath me. I kind of tilted it backward, and over time that can be tough. Spinal stabilization. So that's just your whole spinal column there, up and down, engaging the erectors to strengthen and protect, to keep your shoulder blades kind of drawing together and down. Again, not that I need to tense them together, but can I just kind of let them soften and set on the back ribs where they belong? And then joint alignment, whether you're thinking of that from the top down or the bottom up, whatever works best for your brain, but you can think in your spine, stacking all the vertebra there, all those spinal bones, and your spine has some natural curvature. We want to maintain that. It's not meant to be in a straight line unless you got some hardware back in there. But, pulling my head back, feeling my shoulders kind of draw back, stacking the shoulders on top of the hips, thinking about shoulders, even shoulder, elbow, wrist, if maybe I'm in a plank or something like that. In a standing position, maybe a squat, thinking about hip, knee, and ankle alignment. Maybe that's the width of your feet as well, keeping them underneath your hips. So these are just kind of like little chains of command. And if one's out of alignment, it can put pressure or discomfort right into some of those joints, or like we talked about earlier, I can strain or fire muscles that don't need to fire just because they're trying to overcompensate for misalignment. Oh, a little quote. I forgot this was in there. It is about integrating the nervous system with the muscular system as one functional unit. Make sure that the patterns you develop are allowing your muscles to lengthen properly. Keep your spine neutral and strong. You will become a stronger person who will not succumb to injuries or plateaus by taking the extra time to focus on proper form. So kind of just everything we just talked about all in one little statement. And so not just your muscles, we're this important, intelligent fabric that's been woven. And so we can utilize not only our muscles, but our awareness and our mind and our nerves to find that proper alignment so that we are stronger. And sometimes that takes a little bit of time and awareness. And I know maybe that's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth that, we might have to slow down to keep the form, and that's okay. Okay. A couple of do's for exercise. This is with proper form and just some other things. Aim for your personal range of motion on exercises, full range of motion. So, and that is different for everybody. So, you know, depending on where you're working out, even if you're doing some videos at home, you know, you have a different body than everybody else, and you need to listen to your body. Find the range of motion that works for you. And you can see there in parentheses, it talks about an injury. If maybe you've got a shoulder something, or you just know a knee doesn't like to do something, listen to that. Don't force your body to do something it's not ready to do. And that's part of form too. Your body will tell you if I'm taking my arm in a place that doesn't want to go, you're going to notice your body is going to pull out of form because your body's just trying to keep you up and alive and moving. You'll notice that the mishap kind of there in alignment. But we do want to try to find range of motion, but know that that might be different for you in comparison to somebody else, depending on the day, depending on what's been going on. Stay grounded from your feet up. So not just standing on your feet and your legs as if they're just little sticks that are holding you up. Really ground yourself down, connect to your feet if you're in a standing position. I even think of this if I'm on my stomach or on my back or doing something else that, you know, I want to find that alignment and elongation from the bottom up and even the top down. Focus on postural strength, right? Can I maintain good posture as I do certain things? And this goes back to those neurological patterns that if I'm creating that nice posture as I do everything that I'm doing in my exercise routine, then the body's going to remember to go back to that each time. It's gonna be like, oh, this is where we belong. This is where we're supposed to be. And then you won't have to think about it as much. It's still important to have that awareness and to check in as you're doing things, but your body will kind of fall into that alignment a lot easier. And again, maintaining a neutral spine throughout most exercises, not all of them, but just kind of paying attention to what your spine is doing, paying attention to different parts of your spine. It's all, you know, connected, but I can notice kind of what is my head and neck doing, my shoulders through my rib cage into my lower back, that kind of things. Start with lightweight or body weight, as we talked about before. Start with something that you can really control and you can maintain good form, and then build from there. In my personal practices, specifically with Pilates, I work with lighter weight because I know that I can control it, and I want my body to do the work instead of me just throwing around the machine or my body. That's just me personally. I work with lighter weight and really fire from the inside out. Not to say that heavier weight isn't a bad thing at all, but again, just make sure that you can control it. Okay. Strive to follow a balanced routine that includes different exercises in various planes of motion. So that means, you know, let's not just work our biceps every day, all day. You might have seen some body types. I often think of a man in the gym that he's so big up top, and then, you know, he hasn't done leg day for years and he's just built like a little upside down triangle. Because, you know, you've got muscles throughout your body for a reason to support you in all ranges of motion. And planes of motion, you know, meaning that, you know, you're going forward and back and there's rotation, that you're not just staying in one orientation there. And that helps you not only with building that strength, but also keeping your body mobile, specifically in a spinal sense, that you want your spine to be able to move, and that's going to keep you young and going and kicking for as long as possible. Remember, every exercise is always a full body exercise. Consider your body as a whole. The upper and lower bodies directly affect and support one another. Like for instance, I was just talking about biceps, that I'm not just standing there, again, standing on my legs as if they're just little sticks and kind of letting my belly go and just working the arms. Yes, they're working, and they're the muscles that we're focusing on doing the contraction and elongation. But can I feel connected down through my feet and my legs? Can I feel supported through my spine, through my core? Can I check in with like where my head is? Kind of, you know, doing a little checklist and making sure that, you know, you're engaged. Not that to say that maybe my legs aren't doing the exercise of a bicep curl, but they're supporting the body, that I'm not just letting the extremities just do things onto their own. Stretch regularly. The yoga teacher may think this isn't extremely important. To increase range of motion and flexibility as maintenance to tight spots of the body. You need the strength and you need elongation. They go hand in hand. And you'll be able to do better exercises when you've stretched out your tissues. You can think, you know, if maybe I sit at a desk all day and then I go and do a chest press, I've got all of this tightness and maybe strength as well. But if I've never stretched that out, my range of motion of being able to do a chest press is going to be really limited. If I've got some elongation and some openness through those tissues of the connective tissue and the muscular tissue, I can go a little further and it's going to feel a little better. I'm not going to kind of be fighting my own body to do this. You can also consider deep tissue work, maybe a massage if you like massage, or utilizing some myofascial release techniques. And lastly, make sure to rest up. It's important to rest, let your body take a little breather. It needs a little reset, and not just when you sleep at night, you know, maybe give yourself a day off, or go a little lighter. Maybe one day is a yoga day, is your stretch day. And alternate what is being worked if focusing on certain muscle groups. So maybe one day, you know, you're doing arms and the next day you do legs. Like, make sure you're, again, like I talked about earlier, that you're not just doing one thing all of the time. You know, you mix it up. I think that's great for your body, but also great for your mind, that, you know, you change it up a bit. Okay. The don'ts of exercise. Don't forget to warm up. You don't just come in cold turkey, like off the street or whatever. You know, get your blood pumping, get your tissues warm, kind of get the creaks and the cobwebs out. You could, you know, do that with light walking or just some aerobic activity. Also, don't forget to cool down your body. So we don't just, you know, get really warm, we're going, and then we just stop. Let yourself kind of cool down, let your heart rate come down, use your breath, maybe use your stretching at the end to cool things down. Don't rush. Why are you in a rush? You might feel like, you know, you might have that type of life where you've only got 20 minutes, and that's fine, but be effective in that 20 minutes. Don't be rushed. Know that you've carved out that time for you for a reason. You know, control the movement, take a rest between exercises, that you're not pumping it, to where you're not really connected to what you're doing. And again, if I'm rushing it, and not that you have to go deathly slow, but if I'm rushing it, do I really have the time to pay attention to what I'm doing? Am I able to keep the form if I'm going so crazy fast and just, you know, pumping it through and just rushing through everything? So kind of think about, you know, what is your purpose and what is your focus behind everything? Don't overdo it. Be reasonable with your body. Be nice to your body. Make sure you don't overload yourself. We don't want to move toward injury. And also, maybe you don't want to be so sore that you can't move the next day, right? This is a big one that I talk to everybody about all the time. Do not ignore pain. No pain, no gain is not a smart way to live your life. It is a sign from your body that something is not right. So listen to your body, whether that's you moving through a range of motion that you're like, ooh, I don't really like how that's feeling in my shoulder. My shoulder's telling me I need to back off a bit. Or, you know, are there other signals from your body telling you that just slow down, to back off, to maybe, you know, take some weight off, to maybe even just skip that for the day. If your body's saying no, it's usually smarter than you are. And it's, you know, your ego can step aside for a minute, and know that your body feels different every day for whatever reason. You know, it might be stress from whatever. It might be what you've been eating, what you've been drinking, the pressure in the air. You know, just know that your body's different every day, and that's fine. And don't overtrain, and make sure you don't neglect the muscle groups, which is what we just talked about in the last slide. Okay, so I thought I'd throw out a couple of just kind of common exercises, and then we could talk about corrections for those. I've got some images coming up, just so there's a visual for you. So here's just a couple of things that have wording for some alignment things. Squat, don't let your knees drop inward, kind of like knock-kneed. You want to kind of find that joint alignment of hips, knees, ankles, feet, right? You can train yourself to have the proper technique. If your knees do knock in a lot, you could, put something on the outside of your legs, as it says here, to train your legs to draw out. Maybe your legs go way out. Maybe you need to put a ball or a little Pilates ring between your legs to train them to come in, that just everything stays stacked. Or maybe just gazing down every once in a while helps. Deadlift, avoid lower back injury. Like, this is a great back strengthener, but I don't want to just, cram it in my lower back. Making sure that your lower back stays neutral. You've got a curve down there. Everybody has a little bit of a different curve, just depending on how you're built. Maintaining that natural curve without overdoing it. You want to make sure that your spine stays neutral. We've got, again, that natural curvature. Shoulder press. Yeah, you want to move within your shoulders range of motion. Elbows might be slightly forward, that I don't need to do a shoulder press from way, way, way back here. I'm just kind of in a natural plane of where my arms are ready to move. All right. In plank, you want to make sure that your head and your belly aren't just hanging. I know that gravity's kind of pressing on you, but we want to keep everything again in alignment. I'm really a plank. I'm taking my upright alignment and then just bringing it downward parallel to the floor, or maybe you're parallel to the wall, or however you're doing it. Make sure your core is engaged, shoulders are strong and stabilized. You're in that nice straight line, finding that alignment from head to toe. Okay, let's take a look. Here's deadlift. You can see this poor little guy on the left. Look at his neck. Like, doesn't that just seem like it hurts? His spine is not in a natural alignment. I'm hoping that your spine doesn't look rounded like this. And his hips are a little stiff. You can see here on the right, he's got his gaze down and out a little bit, so his neck's in that natural alignment there. He's got the natural curvature through his spine. So you can see there's a little curve there in his lower back, but he's not letting it dip. So in the image there on the left, he's too tucked under with his pelvis. There on the right, he's got the natural curvature, but he's not overdoing it, where he's just letting his belly fall. And then you can see he's kind of sticking his buns back a little bit. So he's got some support there. Okay. Plank. Top one, her belly is just hanging out, which is not attractive, right? And just like the guy on the last slide, she's looking forward. I don't know to what. Maybe she's got the TV on. You can see at the bottom image, she's gazing down. I would actually like her to look down a little bit further. But you can see, again, she's containing her abdomen. She's not sucking in, but she's just holding it in. You can even notice where her feet are, that she's not so far forward that like she can't hold herself up. She's got her feet kind of stacked so she can support herself. Yeah. And also she's not like relying on her shoes. I think that's kind of what it's saying, balancing on, on her feet, not on the little tips of the toes. You think if she did have tennis shoes on, it's hard to balance like on the little tips of your toes. Another thing is she's got her pelvis in a pretty neutral position. You can see in that top image, she's got that big dip in her lumbar spine, that lower spine. The one there at the bottom, she's not drawn crazy well, but she's got more of a neutral spine, right? You can notice that weight's not hanging down on her. Okay, squat. Poor girl over on the left. Okay, so number one there on the left, look at her knees. Ow, her heels are lifting. Like she's not firing anything that she needs to fire through what she needs to in the squat. So her knees are doing too much work. You can see her joint alignment is not there in number one on the left. Her pelvis is tucked under. See how far forward her pelvis is? Even her head is jutting forward slightly. And then in number two there on the left, she's got her hips back, which is helping with her knees, but notice what her spine's doing. and her arms are doing something a little crazy. And even her neck, again, she's like coming forward with it. There on the right side, you can see she's starting at number 1, finding that alignment of really her whole spine and down through her lower body of hips, knees, ankles there. Arms, this is an optional thing with arms, so you can kind of just forget about that. And then when she's squatting down, she's keeping that alignment. And this image, I would like her core in a little bit more, just for me personally. But when she comes back up, she's firing through glutes and thighs to come up, and then hopefully powering up through her core when she stands. And then there you can even see when she's squatting in number 2 there on the right, that it's okay for her to look forward because she's going straight down, but she's probably looking at like one thing straight out in front of her instead of having to pull her head forward or even push it too far back. All right, bicep curl. I feel like in this one, his face is just telling you everything. So there on the left, he's using muscles that he doesn't need to do this bicep curl. It's telling me he's got too much weight. If he's got to lean back to just get his arms up, it's too much. Look what's happening with his little knees. He's having to thrust his pelvis forward just to get the weight up. It's too much, right? He's losing his alignment completely and engaging muscles he doesn't have to, including the muscles in his face. You could see there on the right, he's up tall, he's stacked. I would prefer him to have a little bit of a bend in his knees, just personally, but he can keep that alignment. And you can notice there on the right that I feel like he's concentrated. He's paying attention to what he's doing and really using his biceps. And I think even in that picture there on the right, you can see his bicep fire more. All right, a lunge. These are tough to get right, but again, that joint alignment, you can see in both of them, but I think it's a little easier to see there on the left and the woman that her ankle and knee and hip are aligned in the front leg and in the back leg. And you can't really, you can't see the top of her, the image is cut off, but you could imagine just seeing from like her hips to, right, maybe that's at her lowest rib or maybe up at her chest, that even that's aligned there. And we would imagine and hope that going up there, up to the top of her head is aligned and that her gaze would be just straight out in front of her. All right, a push-up. Push-ups are tough to keep the alignment as well. And he's doing a great job. He's keeping his head in neutral. So you can see he's looking down and maybe out a little bit in front of his fingertips, his back, and they're saying straight, and that is straight, meaning he's keeping that natural curvature. His core is pulled in. You don't see his belly melting. His feet are hip width apart. And I would say hip width instead of shoulder width because your shoulders might be wider than your hips. But you can see even like it was on that other image of the plank, he's not on his tippy toes. He can really support himself there. And then going down, he's still got that nice alignment of his neck. He's not going too far down where he's hanging again, right? He's not going so far down that he is collapsing. I always say a push-up is still a push-up, even if you just go a little bit, right? I'm still doing some work. That's where I can maintain my alignment, then that's what I need to be doing. It's perfect. And, a really good point there of coming up, and you can see kind of in that upper image, when he presses back up, he's not coming up with a locked elbow, right? He's not locking out the joints. And when we do standing exercises, it's important to keep the knees soft so you're not standing locked out. I can't really, fire my muscles to support me if I'm locking out the joints. All right, and then just another forearm plank. So it's a plank just on your forearms, but a lot of great little things that are pointed out here. The head and neck are relaxed, and that doesn't mean that you relax it and let it drop down. It's in a neutral position so that your neck's not having to work so hard. The shoulders are stabilized, so he's got his shoulder blades just right there on his back ribs, elbows right under shoulders, and you can even see straight out. He's got shoulders over elbows and even the wrists straight out from the elbow. So all of that joint alignment there. He's got his neutral spine, so you can see there's that little curve. He's got his shirt kind of hanging down, but his core is drawing in. I mean, you can really tell that from his back. His glutes are lightly engaged, which helps give some stability to the pelvis and the hips there. His thighs are drawing onto the bone, right? He's not locking out his knees to do that. He's drawing his thighs onto the bone. And again, we talked about this a couple times. You can see what his feet are doing, right? He's on the balls of his feet. He's activating back. So you can think if you took him and stood him up, maybe not with his arms like that, but he's in the alignment for the most part. If you took him upright, he'd be where we want to be standing up. Okay, a couple of form cues. So maybe you're doing some online classes. Maybe, you know, you work out with somebody one-on-one. You may or may not be in group classes right now. But you might hear some of these cues really often to help you remember form. And so I thought I'd just throw them out there and kind of talk about what's what. Shoulders down and back. So that's just that alignment of keeping my shoulder blades on my back, of not hiking them. Most people hike and pull forward, right? It's just kind of shapes that we make really often, neurological patterns, right? I want them to draw down so then my neck doesn't feel so tight. Lengthen your tailbone. Really that means bring your pelvis into neutral. You could think about that guy on the last slide. He was kind of lengthening his tailbone back toward his heels, right? He wasn't popping his buns up or letting them drop. He's finding length through the sitting bones and the tailbone. Soften the knees, like we talked about, not locking out the joints. So, you know, even in the plank, but even in a standing position like that bicep curl, you want your knees slightly soft. You're not locked out. Lifting up your chest, that alignment of, you know, giving yourself enough room to breathe, pulling your belly button up and in. Really, that what that's reminding you of is to engage your core of just pulling in and up, right? Containing yourself. Squeezing your glutes, and not that you want to like squeeze so tight that, I don't know, it's so tense, but you want to engage your glutes. I always say that your glutes and your core are two things that like don't like to engage, so you have to remind them. But glutes, engaging your glutes, you can think on a squat, I need to squeeze my glutes as I press up. And that plank that we just looked at, a little squeeze of the glutes. And, you know, he wasn't squeezing so tight that, you know, his shorts were bunched up, but he was just, you know, giving the pelvic structure some structure and some stability. Focus on upper hamstrings. That can be kind of related to glutes too, but firing the back of your legs kind of just depends on the exercise that you're doing. Lengthening your neck, paying attention to where your head is in space, right? I'm not pulling it forward, not pulling it too far back, just right in line. And also not feeling, you know, smushed here. That can involve your shoulders as well. Chin up off your chest. Do you look down when you do a lot of things? Or I don't know, maybe you look up. I think more people look down. But just keeping your head on that kind of level plane, finding somewhere straight out to look. Or if you're in a plank, you're looking, you know, not down and back at your body, but where your neck can be in alignment. Keeping your spine neutral. We've talked about that a number of times, so I'm sure you get that. Feet hip width apart, right? If you're doing plank or standing work, and not to say your feet can't be wider than your hips, but you know, if you're trying to find, you could think of that guy in the bicep curl. He's supporting himself from the bottom up, finding all that joint and spinal alignment. All righty. So if you're like, I don't know about my form, I don't know what I look like, I don't know what it's supposed to feel like, then consider maybe the help of a fitness professional, somebody that can help you figure out if you're doing these things correctly, somebody that can look at your form as you're doing certain exercises, somebody that can maybe give you an adjustment, a physical adjustment if you feel comfortable with that, to put your body in that alignment that your body and your mind can go, oh, that's where it is. Oh, I feel it. So that can be really beneficial to have a professional there to just watch you, to set up those good habits. So again, that they can give you corrections, they can put you in the right form, and then as you're doing things, give you little reminders, whether that's just verbal or a physical adjustment. A couple of examples of these qualified fitness professionals: a certified personal trainer, a fitness instructor, physical therapist. This is just a short list. There might be others, but make sure that whoever you choose, check their certifications and their experience and their references before choosing them. You know, they might be new. You want somebody that's really kind of, that knows the body, that knows what to look for, that has your safety in mind. That understands why you're looking to correct your form. And that also, that's an important thing for them in training you. I think that form is the most solid foundation of any physical exercise or physical movement in general of what you can do. So I would question somebody that doesn't focus on form at all. I might focus on it a little bit too much, but that's just me. But form is so important. It just is. It just is. It's the foundation of anything you do. And I hope that you can see that after all this information that we've gone through. So when you're looking for a fitness professional, you want to have a conversation with them after checking, certifications, experiences, references, be able to have a conversation with them of why form is important to you, why you want to focus on it, and hopefully they agree. And you guys can have the same goals in mind. All right, just a couple additional points. Put your focus into your form and the movement. Wherever your mind and energy goes is how your body will move and build. Again, those neurological patterns. If you're distracted all over the place, performing sloppy exercises, this is what's going to happen and manifest in your body. So like we talked about earlier, even if you have 15 minutes and that's what you've got, hone in, focus on it, take the time to pay attention to what you're doing. If you're there, and I know some days it's just hard to check out from work or kids or whatever is going on. And some days it's just going to be harder than others, and that's fine. But even just having that intention to just like be there when you're there, to tune in, your exercise is there. And I guess we can have a number of goals, but, to maybe tone up, to build strength, to build balance, whatever it may be. But also it's an important avenue to build the connection of your mind and your body, to be more connected within yourself. So if you're aware 100% mentally and physically of your form and your movement, then you're going to build this connection with your body and you're going to be stronger. You're going to be more grounded. It's just going to happen, which is great. So again, focus on that mind-body connection. We are not compartmentalized. Your mind affects your body and your body affects your mind. It's not just a concept. It's been scientifically proven. So building and harnessing this connection is really, I think, the secret. And here it says untold secret, but I feel like now it's not so much of a secret. There's so many people talking about how this is important of where you are mentally as you're moving and checking in with your body and what your body is trying to tell you in a mental sense, or maybe an emotional sense as you're going through exercises. So I'm really happy that this is kind of coming more to the conversation of exercise, that it's not just, throwing some weights around. And when we have control of our body, we also have control of our mind and vice versa. They're interconnected. I think it's a wonderful thing. All right, I put a couple of quotes from Joseph Pilates. It's just the Pilates instructor in me, but I think that he had such a wonderful, wholesome view of form and exercise. And he really believed in the mind-body connection. He's got some wonderful content. And so this was like from the turn of, the last century, and it still holds true today. I mean, he was doing all of this 100 years ago. A few well-designed movements properly performed in a balanced sequence are worth hours, meaning just worth more than sloppy movement and forced movement. Patience and persistence are vital qualities in the ultimate successful accomplishment of any worthwhile endeavor, of your exercise routine, of connecting with your body. We want to be patient. We want to be persistent. Be patient with yourself. Your body listens to what you tell it. It feels when you're rushing. It feels when you're trying to force it to do something it's not ready to do. Okay, one more thing, I believe. All right, so maybe let's also think about proper form outside of exercise. I know that this talk is about exercise, but I think proper form can be an important thing throughout your day, not just when you're stopping to exercise. So consider your form, and you can take some of those images that I brought forth, but you can maybe flip it to other things in your day-to-day activities. When you're sitting at the computer like I am, how are you seated? Are you just slumped back in your chair with your feet kicked up? How is that going to, make you feel when you get up if you've got Zoom calls all day? Sitting up tall, finding your pelvis neutral, finding your spine neutral, finding a little bit of your core, your shoulders down and back, especially if you, work with the mouse, maybe, you're working at a calculator a lot or whatever. Just kind of notice. And maybe it's helpful to get up every once in a while and like look in a mirror, or maybe you want to set one in front of you. Maybe not. Just sitting at your desk, maybe you pay bills or whatever, you're doing other things. Notice how you are when you're seated. What are your legs doing? How are your feet planted on the floor? When you're standing in line, maybe to get groceries, or maybe you're going to pick up the mail, or you're in line, going to pick up kids or whatever it is. Are you favoring one leg? Are you popping your hip out? Are you slumped over? Trying to find, again, that form and that balance and that alignment from the bottom up, evening yourself out. Maybe carrying groceries in or carrying your children. Are you always carrying everything on one side? Can you try to even it out? Again, are you like popping a hip out? What is your form there? While you're driving, another variation of being seated, but do you have your head forward, right? And driving, we really have to pay attention. And your eyes are there to do it, but we often take our head with us and we're looking forward. You got that headrest behind you for a reason. Maybe you pull your head back so your neck's not feeling so strained. Maybe at a stop light or a stop sign, you can, you're not feeling so tense at the top, and you can slide your hands to the bottom part of the steering wheel. You can kind of let those shoulders go. Okay. Maybe notice, I don't know, what your hips are doing or whatever. When you lay down to go to sleep, what is your form like? Do you wake up? Like, do you always sleep on one side? Are you cramming into one shoulder? Can you think about form? And of course you want to be comfortable and relaxed, but thinking about the form when you lay down to sleep. And these are just a couple of examples, but again, building those patterns, building those habits, reminding your body of what it should feel like when it's in the proper form, when you're exercising, and then in your day-to-day stuff. And not to say that you can't like lose your form and lounge around on the couch, but give your body some structure. And that goes back to breathing, right? Am I, collapsed all day? Is my poor little diaphragm and belly and even my lungs getting smushed because I'm not giving them an opportunity so I can take breath and move out tension and refresh myself and check in with my breath? So support yourself and your internal systems by building proper form awareness throughout the day. We don't need to ruminate on it. We don't need to obsess about it, but we can just take a moment to check in. And I think even just mentally and emotionally, that's just a really wonderful thing to notice. Like, how is your body showing that you're feeling mentally and emotionally, right? Are we feeling closed off? Are we feeling exhausted? Can I kind of give myself some pep by finding that proper form? Okay, great. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. Keep an eye out for other classes coming, whether we've got them on Facebook or on YouTube or even on the website. We love offering these classes for you. If there are any subjects that we don't cover that you'd like to learn more about, feel free to reach out to the staff at the Lifestyle Medicine Center and let them know what you'd like to learn about. We're always putting out new information and just want to give you wonderful resources so that you can have a more healthy, sustainable, strong, uplifted life. Thanks so much for joining me today. Again, my name is Jessica Smith. If you have any questions, reach out to us, and I look forward to seeing you again in our next classes. Have a great day.